Hello, and welcome to Parks Associates' 15th Annual Smart Energy Summit. We're so pleased you're here to be kicking off our first virtual session in our series of conversations that we will be hosting all year long, including in person at our 15th Annual Smart Energy Summit in Orlando this year. I'm Jennifer Kent. I'm Vice President of Research with Parks Associates, and so pleased to be kicking off the day today. If you have not joined us for Smart Energy Summit before, this is your first time engaging with this session, welcome. We're so pleased you're here. This event brings together utilities, retail energy providers, home service providers, retailers, software providers, and device manufacturers to share learnings and strategies for expanding and monetizing the home energy markets and new opportunities to drive consumer engagement with smart energy products and, of course, utility-sponsored programs. Of course, I love to start by thanking our sponsors. We could not put on Smart Energy Summit throughout the year without their support. So thank you so much to Smart Things, Skybell, Arcadia, Residio, and Universal Electronics for your support. Today's session is really all about taking stock of where we're at just here right at the start of 2024 in January. There was plenty of focus on energy-related products and services at CES, which we attended just a few weeks ago. And DISTRIBUTECH is right on its heels next month in February. It's always hosted. And so today I'm going to start by sharing some of the big industry trends that we expect to see this year and a little bit of what we saw at CES, followed by our visionary keynote talk with Taylor Jansell, who's the Energy Star Lighting and Smart Home Lead, hosted by our president, Parks Associates President, Elizabeth Parks. And then we have a panel discussion featuring industry leaders, speakers from Residio, from the Connectivity Standards Alliance, from NRG, as well as the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. We welcome your engagement and your questions throughout. You should see as part of your portal, there should be a discussion tab. You can put your questions for our speakers right into that tab in the Q&A tab or in just the chat discussion, and we will certainly see them there. So we look forward to your great questions and engagement. So again, I wanted to start off with looking at a little bit of the big industry trends of what the energy markets are struggling with and focused on this year and what we're watching, as well as look a little bit at interoperability and data sharing. And of course, the word that's on kind of everybody's mind is generative AI, as well as kind of where we're at in the market reality and some of the challenges that the industry is facing. So if you're working in the energy space, you know that there are several dimensions of change impacting the market and opening new opportunities at the same time. If you're working in consumer technology, home internet services, other types of home services, and trying to understand what's happening in the energy markets, perhaps the greatest shift to be paying attention to is how and where energy is generated and where it's used. Growing adoption of residential solar and higher rates of attached home storage solutions means that energy can increasingly be generated in the same locations in which it's needed. And that sounds really simple, but it's actually an enormous change from how the traditional model worked of generating energy in a centralized location and distributing that energy for miles and miles across a vast network of transition systems. So, of course, there's also now the possibility of selling energy back to the grid and contributing to the energy that's available to power your community. And so the resources that are distributed and not centralized are called distributed energy resources, or DERs. And the systems that manage DERs are called DERMS, or virtual power plants. And utilities are increasingly calling on these resources to generate power, store excess energy, or reduce demand on the grid. And all of this takes a whole new level of scale, a whole new level of urgency and complexity when you consider both the enormous new demand of electric vehicles, charging at home, as well as the possibility to use EV batteries as themselves an energy storage solution, just one that happens to be on wheels. Beyond solar and storage, there are a variety of devices in the home that can be called upon to impact demand on the grid, particularly when coordinated both in the home and across thousands or even millions of homes. Home energy management systems, we increasingly see, can coordinate shading, fans, smart vents for different controls in different rooms, and thermostats, of course, controlling that largest energy consumer in your home, the HVAC system, to reduce energy consumption. And water heaters and smart appliances can either be set back or turned off at certain times to help shave load when necessary. Now, a major limiting factor in this market evolution is consumer familiarity and their willingness to engage in these types of programs. So Parks Associates data finds that fewer than 1 in 5 households, really respondents, consumers, are familiar themselves with demand response programs. Now, of course, they go by all sorts of different names: rush hour rewards, peak time, all sorts of different fun marketing terms for these types of programs. But even fewer than those who are familiar are actually engaged and enrolled in a demand response program today. And possibly even more concerning is the fact that we see almost as many consumers telling us that they used to be enrolled in a program and are no longer enrolled as are currently enrolled. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're having a bad experience. And in fact, a lot of our data shows that the demand response experience is better than consumers expect when they enroll in a utility program like that. But they may just leave the plan. If they're in a retail energy market, they may find a plan that offers a lower rate. They may move out of that service area and they don't feel that they have a program available to them, or they're not aware of that. So this year, we're really focused on the consumer awareness campaigns and engagement strategies that work. Now, I also wanted to focus a little on data sharing and interoperability. Judging by what we saw and heard a little bit at CES, the HCA, the Home Connectivity Alliance, announced its new energy management interface specification at CES. So the HCA is made up of about 17 global brands, including GE, Samsung, Midea is a new ad, Frigidaire, American Standard, Trane from the HVAC side, Resideo. All coming together to, in this case, they are agreeing to use this standard to open up energy usage insights from their variety of products that they offer to empower consumers to understand how much energy their appliances are consuming, which can then coordinate with other loads in the household and possibly actually save you money on your bill. So great to see some energy insights sharing among some of the industry leaders. Skipping down to that last bullet point there, we have Crystal Trey talking to the CSA today about Matter, giving us a little bit of an update there. Matter is a standard in the smart home industry that helps devices talk together and coordinate together. What I was just talking about how shades and lights can talk to each other. The smart home becoming a little bit easier to send data packets around. We haven't seen the home energy monitoring data sharing coming out of Matter yet, but there are all sorts of great working groups that are working on that. So we'll hear a little bit from him. Other things that we saw at CES related to data interoperability come from one company called Eve that announced the first new smart outlet that actually has Matter support. So it would be interoperable with other devices and Matter hubs. And right now it does have energy insights, and those can be accessed within its own application. But again, as Matter evolves, perhaps able to share those energy insights further afield. Finally, the other one I wanted to call your attention to was AirZone, which is an interesting company that translates essentially the language of HVAC systems into terminology that consumer and commercial technologies and IT systems can understand and utilize, which is a really big deal when you think about modern HVAC systems, inverter, variable rate systems, being able to not just turn on full blast and turn off. They can have varying levels of power. And so smart thermostats generally can only tell the HVAC system to turn off and on because they're not talking the same language. So Arizona is one company that helps translate some of those more nuanced controls around zones in the home and what level the HVAC system is powering at, and maybe even humidity controls into a language that consumer and commercial technologies can understand. Why we think this is such a big deal is because consumers are interested in saving money for sure and having more energy efficiency at home. They often do not have the information needed to even understand in some level of sophistication and detail what's happening in their home. They may have an energy bill that they look at monthly or maybe as much as once a week, but it's just that whole home level. They're not able to see it usually in real time, and they certainly aren't able to see their energy data at an appliance level. When we ask consumers what would be the most valuable tools for you from a home energy management standpoint, the two areas that they most want data is the ability to see that disaggregated view, that view of what different things are using different energy in my home, and then also to see that in a more real-time way as opposed to in a delayed manner, and then try and make sense of what's happening in your household. We're very used to all of the insights and controls being at our fingertips in other areas of our lives, and so those expectations carry over to energy as well. Finally, I wanted to focus a little bit on, again, what else we saw at the Consumer Electronics Show besides a lot of discussion around energy monitoring data and interoperability. We did see a whole lot about EVs and charging, some big announcements between, for instance, SmartThings, Samsung SmartThings, and Tesla, where Tesla is opening up its energy monitoring insights from Tesla vehicles and Tesla Powerwall into the SmartThings app. So really taking that insight and information for Tesla vehicle and device owners and being able to see that all in one place with some of the other devices that they might have in their home via the SmartThings hub or application. We also saw an announcement from Resideo and Ford such that customers who own an F-150 Lightning, essentially EV truck, and a Resideo smart thermostat, there's going to be a simulation project that these two companies are working on, exploring how electric vehicles and homes can share the same EV battery energy source and interact with each other to help benefit the customer and the electric grid, have more efficient home and coordinated home energy usage together. We saw announcements from Bosch, from Tuya, from Amazon. I went to the Amazon booth and I got to see that, again, that Ford Lightning was there on show, as well as EV charging, and just the added level of convenience of being able to ask your Alexa in the home, how is my truck charged yet? How much longer does it have to go? I can tell it to stop or start charging. So a lot of thinking about the user experience around EV charging. And that user experience does matter. User interfaces and the consumer experience really do matter. And it's something that's particularly hard for the energy companies to deliver on, as they simply have not been consumer technology companies, right? Their DNA and their technology is industrial, it's commercial at heart. And the relationship with the consumer traditionally has frankly been based on billing. And so this opens up the opportunity for others in the home ecosystem to really be in the driver's seat when it comes to actually interacting with energy devices, energy data, and how you want to control and interact with all of that behind the meter. So I'm showing here just something else that Samsung announced, which was their new home map view of controlling devices in the home, one more step in kind of a user-friendly interface in the smart home. And just in case you haven't been watching, players in the smart home have their eye on energy. The smart home has sort of grown up on the back of the home security space and sort of peace of mind for the consumer and a lot of convenience and automation. But saving money on energy has always been right there with it. And we've seen companies like ADT and Vivint really get into the solar space. Still a lot of execution and growth that I think needs to happen there. But certainly from a long-term view, seeing a lot of potential there. And then companies that have started a little bit more on the energy side, like Ecobee, adding sensors to their smart thermostat solution in order to enter the home security space. So we're certainly watching these trends where these industries are overlapping and what opportunities that opens from both a business model view as well as for consumers and what they experience at home. So with that, I want to invite you all, if you weren't already aware, our in-person Smart Energy Summit this year is going to be in Orlando as an official co-located partner with DISTRIBUTECH. So if you haven't been to DISTRIBUTECH before, it is the leading annual transmission and distribution event that addresses technologies used to move electricity from the power plant through that transmission system and out to the meter and inside the home. So we'll be bringing executives from the energy space, consumer tech, grid tech, home services, to talk about the opportunity in home energy management, evolving business models, how you unlock smart energy for all, including lower income communities. We're going to get the builder point of view and building net zero energy homes from the ground up. We'll be talking about data security and smart energy systems, as well as, of course, the impact of solar and EVs on this entire market. We would invite you, of course, to register today. If you haven't already, submit it to speak. Our call for papers is open and we're filling up our panels quickly. And we, of course, have already confirmed our keynote speakers from Google, Uplight, and Southern Company. So we hope to see you at Smart Energy Summit in February at DISTRIBUTECH. But up next today in our session, I'm very excited to hear from Elizabeth Parks as well as the EPA with our Energy Star speaker today.
Welcome back. That was some great information that Jennifer was sharing about some of the things that we saw at CES, some of the things that Parks Associates has been researching in the energy space in the past year, and really a lot of what we're looking forward to seeing and talking about at DISTRIBUTECH next month with our 15th annual Smart Energy Summit. So I hope you'll join us there. I'm Elizabeth Parks. I'm the president and CMO of Parks Associates, and very excited for our next half an hour where we will have Taylor joining us from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, talking a little bit more about the Energy Star program that she's leading, particularly in the lighting and smart home part of the program. And so very excited to welcome her here. She's going to start us off and introduce the program, sharing some overview information, and then we'll go into a few questions with her. So if you do have any questions you'd like to ask, please remember to put those in the chat or the Q&A box, and I will work those into the conversation. So Taylor, I am so excited to welcome you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and want to see if we can start off with you briefly introducing yourself, and then we will let you walk through some of these introductory slides on the program and go from there. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Elizabeth. The program I'm going to talk about today is all about what Jennifer was talking about with the trends. We're talking about coordinating multiple smart devices in a home, making that simple for consumers. The Energy Star program, for those who don't know, is the government-backed symbol for energy efficiency. It's recognized by 90% of Americans. 80% report they know what it means, they trust it, and they recommend Energy Star certified products to their friends on a regular basis. They have a positive association with our brand. They know it makes energy choices simple. And so we've built over 30 years of recognizing products and recognizing the evolution that we are seeing with these products as they become smarter, as we can tap into new opportunities for energy savings. So over the years, we've added connectivity criteria to our individual product specifications. We have individual product specifications for over 60 different product types. And a few years ago, the opportunity really emerged to build off of that growth, build off of the success of our smart thermostat program, and look at the home system. And so we developed what we call SHEMS. We have to have an acronym for it, of course, is the Smart Home Energy Management System specification. So it's a combination of devices that we say your system must work with at minimum, but it could be fully expansive throughout the home. A combination of services, so this capabilities of a platform, field data, so actual data from installations in homes throughout the US. And those three kind of key elements are what makes a certification. And there's an upfront process, and then there's an ongoing process to maintain certification. So we're not just looking for upfront performance data, but we want to know that these smart systems are continuously active and developing and delivering energy savings as they go on and are used as time passes. So we ask for data to be reported on a biannual basis. So this is an ongoing program based on minimum set of devices, system capabilities, and actual data out in the field. And that's where we are today. And it's an exciting program to help bring together where consumers are today, where they want to go with automating their home, but also tie in really key objectives that our utilities are trying to achieve with load management. So we built the, it's kind of like a brain, a centralized system that can manage all these different actions and devices across a system. And so the key minimum devices are thermostats, an Energy Star certified smart thermostat, lighting load management, plug load management, and water heater control. So those you can think about as the minimum devices, but of course you can build off of that infinitely. You can include connected Energy Star certified EV chargers. You can connect it with batteries. You can connect it with anything, but these are the minimum we're asking for your platform to be capable of connecting and controlling. We're talking about remote access, energy reporting, demand response, integration of time of use rates, and occupancy. So the system needs to be able to recognize when a dwelling is occupied or not, so it can take this energy saving actions appropriately. You can use AI, you can use a variety of different things, but you can take the information at multiple levels, dwelling as a minimum. So you could do room by room, you can layer on geofencing, but at minimum, a dwelling level to signal to the home, to signal to the system to take those energy savings actions that are going to be most meaningful for energy reductions. That is the Energy Star Smart Home Energy Management System in a nutshell. So it combines minimum devices. Those devices, by the way, are shown by the Parks data to be the widest adopted smart home products in the market. As you just saw, the thermostats have seen tremendous growth as of last year, a nice boom beyond that stagnant 13% adoption. We're seeing continued growth in this area. And you see that they, once you have one device, people tend to add on to bring more features. What we're trying to do is help folks coordinate those features and those energy saving actions throughout the home and make it easy for consumers. Next slide. So what kind of services are we talking about? Well, these are the kind of energy saving actions. Like, you can have the most basic level of scheduling, allowing your person to schedule, but we're talking about making it simple. So your calendar says you're on vacation. So I turned down the thermostat. I powered off your water heater and I activated your lighting safety mode. Sending a user a signal that you're taking energy actions on their behalf based on the information you have about their actions. And they can always override it. That's a great feature. You can suggest, hey, I noticed you're away. Would you like us to take energy saving actions on your behalf? You could send pricing signals to your users through this system to let you know that your utility rates are low, and you can adjust your behavior to get the lowest price of energy for your home. So these are the types of things. We try not to be overly prescriptive. These are just illustrations of the type of features that we're looking for in an Energy Star SHEMS. Next slide. I really want to invite anyone who's interested, who thinks that they have a platform that hits all these targets, to reach out, contact me. We are looking to support our interested parties. We are building out more resources for supporting certification. We have a third-party certification process that I can talk more about. And we are about to release a certification tool to help navigate the certification process at the end of the month.
Great. Thank you so much, Taylor, for that overview. Really good information to set the stage for our next 20 minutes or so to ask you some additional questions. So I want to focus in on the consumer benefits, the consumer experience, and then towards the end, talking a little bit more about the process and what's to come. So you did set the stage in understanding, these different devices and the requirements that are included with the program overall. But tell us, if you could, what are you trying to get across as far as the benefits for consumers to understand? There's a lot for the industry, right? The industry players to understand the certification process. But if you're the consumer at the store buying something, what does this Energy Star logo and mark mean to the consumer, and what do you want it to represent?
Yeah, well, it is highly recognized and trusted symbol for energy efficiency. It's all about making energy choices simple, and we actually have research that people's brains light up when they see it. It helps make overwhelming purchasing decisions much more simple. People feel like they're doing the right thing for the environment when they are choosing an Energy Star certified product. And the idea is that we are promising energy savings without sacrifice in experience. And that's the big brand promise that we've delivered on for over 30 years.
And in thinking about the different features that consumers care about, of course, we're tracking all sorts of things at Parks Associates in terms of the connectivity features, but also the energy management features. The requirements are always changing as products are evolving and technologies are advancing. So can you highlight some of the things that you all think the consumers are caring about and that you have incorporated into the Energy Star program?
Sure. We think consumers want to know they're doing the right thing. They don't want to have to put a lot of effort into it, right? So that's why choosing something that's gone through a rigorous certification process helps people feel good about their choices without having to do a whole lot of work. So taking the guesswork out is huge. Not having, most people don't know when they need to do what and don't want to have to think about it. People lead very busy lives. Automation is key here, but they need to have a positive experience with the technology. So we're really, we're really pleased to see the interoperability standards moving forward. Those will be really important to having a good consumer experience. Seamless interoperability is great. We do recognize that still has a way to go for fully integrated home, but our specification really is open to a lot of different approaches. And like we said, the consumer experience is key. It needs to be simple, and they need to get feedback on the energy savings that they are experiencing. It's just like a lot of these smart home devices. It's a novelty item. It's fun at first. They might get really into looking at the data and diving in the very beginning, but then they forget about it. They just want to live their lives, right? So, but if you, one of the features of our program is you give energy reporting, you allow for that in a variety of different ways to consistently let people know that the system is delivering for them and they don't have to worry about it.
And that promise that we see is about energy, just in the sense less is being consumed, that there's an efficiency somehow that's taking place, even if a consumer has no idea exactly maybe, how much is supposed to get saved. And so initiatives like the Home Connectivity Alliance coming forward with that data being able to be shared, and also these new solutions with real-time analytics become an important part of that. Of course, interoperability and the efforts towards having devices and systems talk together allows for some of those analytics. When consumers are thinking about Energy Star, do they think about the cost savings? And is that something you all are really emphasizing? Or is it more on that generally there's going to be less energy consumed? And how does that play out in terms of some of the deep dive benefits that you all might be highlighting with that consumer experience?
Sure. So right now, we can't guarantee any amount of dollar savings, bill savings. Everyone's behavior is going to be different. And so their systems are going to deliver different, their lifestyles are going to deliver different energy saving opportunities. But we do hope to learn more as we get more participation in the program of what is the universe of energy savings that can be delivered on a statistical basis. And we see reductions somewhere between 10 to 30% with the key devices, but you can imagine much greater savings if you integrate with more products. So there's a lot of little energy savings to be had, the more devices that are connected in a home. But as Jennifer mentioned, the HVAC control is the biggest one. We know smart thermostats really deliver on that energy savings big time. And so what this allows, a system-wide approach allows you to collect additional benefits and additional energy savings. And we're seeing that, and different systems are going to compete on how much they can deliver and how well they can deliver those energy savings while still maintaining good consumer experiences.
Really interesting. Well, and we do show data. We have consumer reported data that's showing that people with a smart thermostat are saving on average $45 a month. That's what they're reporting they save, which is significant when you add that up. And so I think that's a big point with the orchestration of the different devices and the ability to control things where automation is in play. And then those little incremental savings can add up to a lot, which of course is what the utilities are all very interested in. And one of the things at DISTRIBUTECH that we'll be talking a lot about is those partnerships and future business models where the utilities will be really, it's a necessity to be looking towards the devices in the home to bridge them all together and create a different way that the load is can be optimized. So very interesting there. Do you want to make any comments? We have a number of questions that are coming in about the certification process and the program, and so I want to get to that. However, let me get in this last question first about the entry-level devices being some of the first that a consumer could choose, and how you see that playing out, especially with connected lighting, and then the rest of the smart home ecosystem, of course.
Yeah, sure. The minimum required devices we chose, as I mentioned, are backed by your research as highly adopted. They're related specifically to energy saving opportunities. Plug load is a tricky one because you never know what's plugged in. But we wanted to capture that plug load requirement is very flexible. And we wanted to capture something and allow for that flexibility to do additional load management. Water heater management is key, but we also have flexibility there. It doesn't mean you have to connect with an Energy Star certified smart connected water heater. But lighting is pretty low hanging fruit, pretty affordable. You can fulfill the plug load requirement just with smart plugs and the thermostat, which we know are much more affordable today. So it needed to be accessible, that minimum bundle, but also backed by data where consumers actually are buying these products and using them and having good experiences with them. And then anything on top of that is gravy. But those are the ones that we thought would be accessible. We saw adoption in the market and seemed like great entry points for consumers.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the program and the process. I've got a few different questions coming in, but let's just start off with what the process is to become Energy Star certified. You mentioned it a little bit in the beginning. We'll also make sure everybody has your contact information so they can follow up and work to get their product certified. But tell us how that works.
Sure. So all of our Energy Star products are certified through third parties. So we have a very rigorous third-party certification program. We also do off-the-shelf verification testing of our products. That is not necessary for this product category because we'll be getting field data every 6 months. So that is essentially an ongoing check of the products performing in the field. But it is rigorous. It is, you do have to prove that you're doing all the things that we've called for to earn that Energy Star. And our current we only have one certification body right now for this category, and that is UL Laboratories. So a lot of you already have previous relationships with them, and you can reach out to them to contact them about their certification service for this category.
Okay, great. And the next question is more in regards to maybe the lack of systems that have gotten certified up to this point, and anything you might share on obstacles or barriers, as well as the utility program adoption.
Sure. So we've noticed a lot of utilities are doing pilots right now. There's a lot of interest, a lot of dabbling, a lot of planning, how to meet their needs with this technology. It's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, but we do know that our one national certification, there was a big announcement at CES last year, some of you might have seen, is brokering lots of deals with utilities right now. And they're able to do customized programs for them using their base certification for their platform. And we will be doing a webinar probably next month to bring some utilities together to talk about their goals and how Energy Star certified SHEMs can help them meet these goals. And we'll be talking about the opportunities there. We do believe that certification has been complex. So we've been working on developing a certification guide with practical examples so we can better illustrate what exactly we're asking for. And so we hope to have that out by the end of the month as well.
Okay, great. One other question here from our audience. The comment is 50% of energy is lost in the local loop. Is EPA doing any work in this area? I don't know if that's something you could comment on, or we can.
I'm not sure what that question is really about. So
okay, so we'll get whoever asked that. We'll get back to you on an answer on that one. So let's talk a little bit about again some of those requirements for certification. You mentioned it in the beginning, but if you can reinforce those, I think those 3 key elements that you highlighted earlier.
So energy saving actions, for one, is, we have this example where you have to kind of take actions on behalf of a user. And that has been, I think, confusing for some folks. Like, you have to be able to allow a user to schedule energy saving actions or put their schedule in preferences, but also doing something on their behalf because you've noticed they've been away for a long time, right? That is a benefit that plays into this, making it easy for them to save energy where they don't have to go out of their way to do that. And you can do that in a variety of ways. And we're helping illustrate how different tactics for doing that. We are really, the reason I think we didn't want to come out and tell people how to do that. We want to see what you guys have and say, yeah, that works. So I do think that a lot of us, if you're looking at our requirements and you're confused, like, please do reach out, because it's meant to be very much open to a lot of different ways to hit the mark here and really allow you guys as service providers to innovate and do what you do best at serving your customers and doing these energy saving actions, and then, saying, like, is this going to meet the requirement? And then UL and me will help you figure that out. And that's what we're trying to do with the certification tool, to really help illustrate how to meet the requirements that may have been a little bit vague in the specification.
Yeah, well, that's great that you guys have more coming, and we'll certainly, once those webinars and information are announced, we're happy to help support that initiative so the industry understands the process and the value also behind it. So Taylor, it's so great to have you join us. I'd love to let you have the last word here and tell us where you see this program going in the future. And so any final comments you have?
Sure. I mean, we're really looking to get critical mass and really dive into the data and see what the energy savings potential really is out there and what different systems approaches can deliver. And that can help us move to the next phase of the program, which we see being able to be based on a performance standard, a threshold of energy savings across on average delivered by a system. And that will provide a more level playing field and less capabilities and prescriptive based approach like we're doing now. We want to really have a threshold for performance similar to how we do other products, so that we can go out and say an Energy Star certified smart home energy management system will save you between X number of dollars on your annual energy bills. That's where we're headed, but we need a critical mass of participants to get there. So we are inviting, if you get in early, you're going to be a part of shaping what that future looks like.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Taylor, for joining us today and for all the work that you're doing to really help the consumer understand these products and what they're offering, as well as the industry, with this mark that has a great deal of meaning behind it. And again, we value your time, and thank you so much for joining us. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth.
Okay, so if you want to get involved, we have Taylor's information here, and you can also reach out to her directly, go to the website. If you'll stick with us for just a minute, we'll be right back for our next panel, where we'll be following up, talking a little bit more about what's to come at DISTRIBUTECH and for the coming year in energy management. Okay, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again. We have an awesome panel that we'll be having here for the next 45 minutes to an hour, really talking about these energy trends that are coming and that are here now. And so I have an amazing lineup of speakers from Residio, the CSA, NRG, and also Berkeley Labs, talking a little bit about these trends. So very excited about this group of panelists here representing different areas of the market. We're going to start off with short introductions from each, explaining their role and their company, and then we will get into the Q&A time. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A box in Swapcard, and I will work to integrate them in. So I'm very excited to start off and welcome Gary Debling, the Vice President of Energy Solutions and Services at Residio. Residio is a powerhouse player, and I know Gary's in charge of the 300 plus utility partnerships that Residio has in play. So Gary, thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and explain to the audience your role and what you're working on at Residio.
Yeah, hi Elizabeth. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Gary Debling, and I'm the VP of the Energy Services and Solutions team here at Residio. Residio is a leading global provider of solutions for home comfort, energy management, and security, and we're well known for our Honeywell Home smart thermostats and First Alert safety products. I lead the energy management team, who partner with utilities to provide demand response program and work with manufacturers across categories to connect smart products. Our goal at Residio is to simplify how we save, shift, and support energy optimization. I'm absolutely delighted to join the panel today, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Great, thank you for being here. Next, we have Christopher Lepre. Chris, we're so excited. Always great to have you join us virtually or in person. So thanks for your time today. Go ahead and explain to our audience your role and who the CSA is.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth. It's always great to be on all of your panels and the information you provide to the world. So yeah, I'm Chris Lepre. I am the head of technology at the Connectivity Standards Alliance. We used to be the Zigbee Alliance. We are now, we changed our name to the Connectivity Standards Alliance when we announced Matter. We are trying to do everything that's necessary for IoT to be successful in the world, starting with smart home. We are recently expanding into smart energy, which is why I'm here talking to your membership today. But so what are those problems? You know, really quickly, connectivity. So that's what Matter is. But product security, data privacy are other concerns that consumers have, the world has. Those are other problems we're trying to tackle for IoT. And then we also have access control and other pieces that we're going after as well. So I think that's it in a minute or less.
Great, thank you for that intro, and we look forward to hearing more from you during this session. Next, we've got Wayne Morrison. He is in charge of a lot over at NRG. And Wayne, it's always a pleasure to have you join us on stage in person or virtually. So welcome back again. Go ahead and explain your role and NRG's position in the market.
Thank you, Elizabeth. My role at NRG is in the product innovation group, review new technologies, so emerging technologies. We have the opportunity to install those and actually operate them. So as we do that, we learn many things, good and bad, about different products. So then we can offer those to our customers, the ones that fit, and are always looking for what else is new in the market. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. Bruce, also a great pleasure to welcome you to our stage. So thanks for joining us. Go ahead and share with our audience your role and Berkeley Lab.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm a research scientist at Lawrence Berkeley Lab. We do public interest research. We worked on energy efficiency for over 50 years and on demand flexibility for over 2 decades now. My own research centers on the intersection of internet technology and energy systems. And in recent years, it's focused on communication protocols and system architectures for how we can get highly dynamic pricing to be an effective mechanism to engage customer flexibility for the benefit of the customer and for the grid. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining. We're going to start off, we're going to be talking about the big picture, devices, data, utility readiness, partnerships, and then finally the data analytics and monitoring. So we're going to try and see if we can get through all that. I want to start off with the big picture and what we're talking about when we say the orchestration of the grid, or this grid coordination that has to take place. And Bruce, I want to start off with you, given your vast expertise in this area. Can you give us a brief summary of what this all boils down to, what this means when we're talking about orchestration and this grid coordination that's going to have to happen?
Yeah, in these discussions, people often talk about many diverse grid services, but the most of what the customer can deliver to the grid is in shifting and shedding, very occasionally shedding load to better balance supply and demand, and reduce system costs and reduce capacity requirements. Many mechanisms have been proposed or used over the decades for this purpose. Many of them are declining, but two of them are rapidly increasing in use, which is aggregators, or virtual power plants, as people like to call them now, and pricing. And while I personally think the pricing is a superior solution for the foreseeable future, we need to make good use of both mechanisms. So we need to make sure we have effective interoperability so that grids can integrate with VPP providers or with customers directly, to have people rewarded directly through their bill on pricing. And we're making progress in standards in this area, particularly with the introduction of OpenADR3. But we really need to define collections of ways so that ideally every utility on the planet does things the same way, or at least within a very narrow bounds, just like we do in IT systems where we have rampant interoperability. And we need to learn from that success.
And can you expand a little bit more on this virtual power plant idea? Now, you just said that it's aggregators, or they're called VPPs now. So can you just explain a little bit in more depth what we're talking about, exactly what we mean there?
Yeah, so this sort of decouples the customer from the utility directly, so that the third party, the aggregator or the VPP provider, orchestrates many customer devices for the benefit of the grid, and then shares some of the revenue with a customer. So it simplifies it for the customer, and that they don't need to be as involved. But the VPP provider also takes a lot of money out of the system, and that there are other issues. So there are some pros and cons. And with pricing, the aggregator is the utility meter, which is the original aggregator, which aggregates all of the loads in the buildings. And if you charge the right price, you don't need to have a mechanism which goes around the meter. And fundamentally, we have aggregators because the prices that we usually charge people are not the right prices. So to get better outcomes, we have to have mechanisms to account for the fact that we're not charging the right price. So those are two paths we could follow.
Okay, perfect. And so all this means that the relationship between the customer and the utility really is shifting. There's a number of changes that are going to be going on. And Wayne, this is where, I'd love for you to maybe share a little bit more about what that relationship has been in the past, maybe where we are now, and then what it might look like in the future as technology continues to advance, as more electricity is needed, and as utilities are working to figure out, really how to make this all work.
Right, and very simply, right, supply and demand. So I know as I was growing up, I have to be careful these days. As I was growing up, we were used to the utility just building another power plant as more load was added. So consumers really did not think about it. They just flip a switch and things turn on. Ready Kilowatt was one of the logos that was used back then for all electric homes and more electricity usage. So no one wants an outage. So what we're looking for is to all work together as we move forward, because we know how to control power plants. And we do that every day. Those are complex facilities to make sure that we have power that's adequate when we need it. But where are the loads? Those are at the consumers' homes. So as Bruce was mentioning, all these different devices now that aggregate up into virtual power plant, or Jennifer talked about right, thermostats, home batteries, EV charging, all those type of things. That's where I'm able to spend most of my time looking at those devices, and you can see all those coming together. But I think as consumers are more familiar now with apps and Wi-Fi radios, or different radios are being built into devices, and consumers are used to controlling those. When you ask for that permission of can someone else, right? Can a utility, can a retail provider send a signal to that device? I think we're seeing that change beginning to occur, but they understand that they're always in control.
Yeah, so this shift where these devices in the home are connected and then enable the utility to really have control of that load and have an impact, particularly when you add it all up. So it's not one home that matters, it's one home times 1,000 or 1,000,000 or whatever the community is, which is interesting, particularly when you look at the community aspects, and even now communities being built with energy and energy efficiency and shared resources in mind. It's very interesting, the different things that are going on all over the place, and device is really driving a lot of that. Gary, I want to move over to you before we start talking more about devices and interoperability, and see your great experience, if you want to share more on your big picture view here of what's going on with the grid orchestration and those major devices in the home, like HVAC, that really are the energy hogs maybe of the home.
Yeah, thank you. I think Wayne sort of hit really right on the bullseye here. It really is a community effort. And I think we're incredibly grateful for every consumer that allows our utility partners to shift that energy at those moments in time. And I think that as the smart thermostat penetration grows and our education with our utility partner intensifies, that will enable us to really build on some of the new standards that are coming to market now. And in particular, HCA, which was announced in Las Vegas at CES, interoperability between appliances, providing a seamless experience for consumers that give them insights about their energy efficiency and their usage, as well as surfacing important energy about the ability for those appliances and the effectiveness of that shifting of energy is really critical. So I think we're really on the cusp of some very exciting energy moving opportunities, and it's just going to take a community effort from utilities to appliance manufacturers and OEMs to aggregator services like ourselves, and consumers allowing us into their homes to do some really elegant shifting of energy. We're very excited to be part of this energy chain.
And you all mentioned, I made an announcement, sorry, at CES with Ford. Do you want to share a little bit more about what's to come there with that partnership?
Yeah, no, we're super excited, because obviously with our heritage of decades of thermostatic control, we're really excited to really understand the home. And one of the critical things as we go through this energy transition is that consumers aren't impacted, or their comfort's not impacted through this shifting of energy. So we've partnered up with Ford because we actually really do believe that EVs can be a solution versus a problem. So rather than us sort of hypothesize about the impact of EVs, we're actually working with Ford to simulate the needs of an EV, and in particular a bi-directional EV, when that's introduced to the home. So we're really excited to look at the combination of how that bi-directional battery and a Ford Lightning truck can help power the HVAC system or a Resideo smart thermostat. We think that powerful combination could be a real asset to the grid and can be really dispersed at times of grid strain. So we're very excited to see where that partnership takes us.
Yeah, it's a great announcement, and we'll definitely be following it and seeing, what you all have to report on here in 3 or 6 or 9 months, whenever that comes. So, congratulations on that one. When we're talking about all of these devices in the home, this is where the interoperability part really becomes crucial, right? And Chris, this is where I want to see if you can jump in and share more about what the CSA is doing with Matter and really that orchestration in the home, right? And that ability just for products to communicate. What are the things that are of utmost importance, maybe what's to come? We know Matter is in an evolution of progress. And so please share with us some of the things that you all have worked on.
Yeah, so we're really focused. Well, the Matter working group is very focused right now on smart home implementation still, making sure that we get that right. And there's still some things to be done in that capacity. But we are certainly starting to expand the definition of what a classic or traditional maybe smart home has been. That's smart plugs and cameras and those kinds of things, sort of the traditional piece. But to expand it to where the rest of the panelists have been talking about a lot of the world is going. So your electric vehicle should be a Matter device as you buy it and bring it into your home. You should be able to just scan a barcode just like you do for Matter, and then you join the network and then figure out what other devices in the home it has to talk to. So that's the new device type that we're working on. Water heaters, in particular, heat pumps are another device type that we're working on. Again, those are devices that are becoming smart, and those should therefore be part of your Matter network as it gets in the home, whatever ecosystem you wish to use. But as you have that, now we already have thermostats that are implemented. You really have the makings of just an app that could be on your phone and can really do some of this demand response that everyone else is talking about on this panel. I mean, that's the world we're trying to get to, where if all these devices now have a standard and can get on the network in 10 seconds by scanning a barcode or even the Bluetooth, just like literally you plug your hot water heater in and then boom, you have a notification on your iPhone that says there's a new device found. What should we name it and what rules do you want to set up on it? That's how simple it should be. And then energy management can layer on top of that. We're looking at medical devices. I know I've talked to you about that elsewhere, Elizabeth, as well. Again, those devices that your doctor prescribes to you should be just as simple. You go to CVS, you get your prescription filled. It's a medical device, scan the barcode, and then boom, that's on your network. And it's doing what it should do in terms of getting your medical information where it needs to go.
Yeah, and in the U.S. market, energy costs are still relatively low, although our research certainly tracking that consumers have awareness and concerned about energy costs. But in Europe, it's a whole nother story, right, Chris? So is there anything you can share with us over, I know CSA is a global organization and Matter, certainly a global initiative. What are some of the things you're seeing over there that is really driving demand? Certainly the cost of energy. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So we, a couple things here. We have slightly larger membership in Europe, closer to 40% versus one third. On the other side, slightly less than third, I guess that would be. And so, yes, there's a lot of demand in Europe for this. And we're also seeing it on the commercial building side. So that's yet another evolution that we're looking to make sure we get right as we're, again, focusing on smart home to make sure Matter is done right. But any kind of motion sensors or occupancy sensors that are going to work for the smart home should have some type of pairing mechanism where someone putting in a smart building can just pair 10,000 of these, and then power comes in a couple weeks later, network comes in a couple weeks later. It should still work for that. What Matter has today does not work for that. So that's this longer term evolution piece that we're trying to make sure we get right, so that occupancy is something that can be somewhat universal throughout let's call them smart spaces where people live and interact. And that way that the energy management systems can take advantage of that richer occupancy set of information that we're trying to make available there. And Europe is definitely driving a lot of this. On the commercial building side, we have a number of European companies that have been focused on that. ABB and Siemens have just recently joined our board of directors, and they're the ones leading the charge on that particular front.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have an event called Smart Spaces that really is talking about the multifamily space, and certainly a lot of opportunity there with the ability to have in-unit control, but also the outside areas that a resident may be in. So very interesting. A lot of this gets down to this idea of disaggregating the data and having that available, which is what the HCA was announcing with this new standard to be able to share that data. And so, Gary, I want to see if, I know we touched on it here in the very beginning, but if you can share a little bit more on how you think this can impact the consumer. And then, we're going to move into also the idea of utility readiness. Which utilities are embracing these ideas, and why are those particular ones ready for what's to come? And then how do we maybe prep the other utilities who aren't quite there yet to get on board with some of the things that we're talking about?
Yeah, Elizabeth, we're proud members of the HCA, the Home Connectivity Alliance, and we're really inspired by their sort of dedication and commitment to deliver, firstly, as Chris was teasing about interoperability amongst their appliance manufacturers, HVAC systems and TV brands. We see it as a really big step forward, and the 1.0, home energy management specification that was announced at CES really does enable sort of energy efficient solutions within the connected home, deliver sort of what we believe are real world energy and cost savings for the consumer. So we think the data that's going to be derived is going to help consumers get sort of valuable insights into the efficiency of their home, which is like really, really cool. We think consumers will really value the interoperability between brands as they make choices of, their purchasing choices. We think that there's tremendous help for us as an aggregator within the service and utilities to see the impact of the movement of energy between those devices at critical times. Will add value and across the chain. But we also think appliance manufacturers will start to sort of determine the energy management potential of those devices. So we really do believe that the work that Chris and the Matter team are doing and the work that the HCA doing are really helpful and really going to be key instruments for us growing and rising the tide of energy management. So we're excited about it.
So, Bruce, let me come over to you and expand further here on this idea of the utility readiness, also the demand response programs, and differentiating loads. There's a lot here going on for a utility to understand where, they're not people who are necessarily have looked to the home, inside the home, to be a control point. I mean, that's not really what they've done in the past, right? So how is this game changing? And maybe you can describe some of the things that you're seeing. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, historically, demand response was often just one end use in a building for a small fraction of customers, only activated a dozen days a year on when the grid was particularly stressed. But as we get more variable renewable production on the grid, really every day on the grid is different. So we want demand response to cover as many loads in the building as possible to get most of the load. We really would like all customers to be active and help contribute to flexibility and to saving money. And this should be continuous, acting every day of the year, not just episodically. So that's a different mindset. And with that, everything needs to be automated. And so we need to have very seamless, simple interoperability. And really, one of the central conclusions I would say that we've learned from the success of internet technology is the best things are and universal. And if we adopt those two principles, we're really likely to get to a much better outcome than otherwise. And that's really our key challenge. And as far as utilities, utilities more and more are engaging with aggregators. and that's certainly necessary. And there needs to be standardization on that front, which I announcement contributes to. But we're also seeing more and more utilities, particularly in Europe, but also we're planning to do this in California, introduce pricing, which is really advantageous to the consumer, to allow the consumer to save the most money. So the biggest challenge on that front really is the lack of utilities offering the good prices, so that then manufacturers have an incentive to introduce products and consumers to acquire them.
Right. Okay. I've got a couple questions from the audience, so I'm going to go ahead and take those now, if it's okay. Wayne, I'm going to come back to you as well, but you might be able to answer one of these questions. So here's the question. Utilities are actively adding the capability to control temporary assets placed on their grid. What control will the asset owner have to limit or reject third-party control? Anybody? So what control will the asset owner have to limit or reject the third-party control? Wayne, is
And I
that?
can maybe, Wayne, you can with me, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I'll jump in first. In the past, as we think about kind of on the power plant side of the business, when someone wants to offer a generation source, there's a contract of some sort, and it states kind of we can do X amount of load for X amount of time, certain days of the week. You know, it gets down to that level of detail. So I think, again, today we're thinking more demand response, DERs in the market. So these are smaller generation sources, but they're affecting the overall market. So I think as the aggregators of these virtual power plants come together, they'll be providing some type of a contract to say, I can deliver X amount of power certain days of the week and time.
Okay, great.
And I'll just jump in. This is somewhat of a softball lob for me. From our perspective, we're trying to make sure everything is in the home control, right? So like I mentioned before, you have a hot water heater or a new electric vehicle, you're scanning that barcode in your home and you're giving it access to your home network. And you are really in control of everything that device can do. So I mean, it might be that there are click-throughs still that you've got to deal with, and that's what our data privacy group is trying to work on and simplify. But it does put you in control of that device. So you really can stop that device from doing whatever you want to stop it from doing, because it's in-home control. You'd be getting an app that's talking to you in home, or a box that's talking to those devices in the home, and you're really in control. So it's quite different than the model that's existing today, of what Wayne was describing, where you've got contracts that are in place, and hopefully those contracts have made it clear to you what you're giving up and what you're getting. But the way we're doing things is quite different than that. In the standards that would exist in the home.
Okay, great.
Right, but even the manufacturers, they create the device, they set parameters on what it can do, how it can be operated. So those things exist. And so it's how do we all work together to make sure we're operating or sending signals correctly to the diverse set of devices that are out there.
Some of what we're talking about is moving from a reactive mode to proactive, right? We're in the world of, oh no, we've used too much electricity, we got to stop it. So pull back, everybody's usage. But in this new world that's coming, we wouldn't have to be that reactive. Just like in, let's say, home security, you can know something's happening even before it's happened, and that's where this beauty of the connectedness comes into play, because of that capability of understanding maybe what's about to happen and be able to stop it from happening. I mean, that's why we got State Farm in the mix everywhere, right? It's the insurance side of it, the ability to know something before it happens, or just be able to respond that much more quickly because you've got that early notice of it going on. This gets to this question of how important is the smart home to utilities. And so maybe Wayne will come to you on that, and also Gary, and then I do have another question from the audience after this one.
Yeah, the smart home is obviously where all the devices are. So utilities, retail providers are looking for the ability to talk with those customers, get them to agree to whatever those terms may be. So you'll see anything from different price plans, like a time of use type of plan for electric vehicle charging. Can you shift that to a different time of the day where we see wholesale prices lower in the market? If so, then there are some benefits for the customers. We've seen, hot water heaters. We spoke about those, thermal storage. Can we charge those at night, even charge them higher, use a mixing valve to put the correct temperature water back in the house? So all these devices are in the market, and very important to orchestrate all those together. I think that's really the focus of this call today.
Yeah, I just absolutely agree, Wayne. And I think the combination of sort of human energy and the work that Chris and the HCA and other folks that are trying to build energy efficient products to help us climb this energy mountain, that human energy, energy science, data science, coupled with really meaningful product solutions that work seamlessly for consumers. And as you indicate, Elizabeth, just happen seamlessly and elegantly and have an impact not just on their home, their community, and the greater world. I think this is just such a meaningful journey we're all going on. And I think the closer we work together on it, I think we'll all be winners in the long run. So very exciting.
Yeah, and I want to touch on. Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead, Bruce.
If I could jump in, if we commonly talk about what's happening inside the home, inside of residential buildings, as if there should be fundamentally different from other building types. But with internet technology, we use exactly the same technology in any building type, and in fact, in any country, it's always the same. And we really need to work to that for electricity systems where we have universal technologies. And now the products might be different, but the underlying technologies can be universal.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, let me ask a couple more questions here from our audience. First one is about the HCA and the CSA. So the question is there any crossover work between these two groups, given that there's a number of players who are members of both groups? So does the HCA and CSA work together? And Chris, I don't know, Christopher, I don't know if that's one you can answer for us.
Yeah. So as the questioner prompted, yes, almost all of our members are in common, maybe a handful of ones that aren't, but certainly the drivers of both organizations are in common. And we have spoken with their leadership pretty regularly. And I believe we're still quite in alignment. When they first announced what they were doing, they had a commitment, the members that we had spoken to and the HCA in general had a commitment to Matter in the home for what they were doing in the home for connectivity purposes. That's Matter. They had a commitment to Matter as those devices were evolving. And HCA is very much a cloud connectivity piece. And I think on the energy management side, we are also in alignment with the strategy things that all the panelists here today are saying in terms of how energy management should be done. I think for us, it's the in the home connectivity. We have to make sure that all the right players are there and get all the different electric vehicle chargers to come and agree on how to do that connectivity, and all the different water heaters companies to come and agree on how to do that connectivity. And not to belittle what they've done, I think it's a fantastic thing, and it's definitely providing the vision. But once the data is in the cloud, now they can put some component in the cloud that creates this functionality that we're talking about of energy management. And that's what they've done, and I think that's brilliant. And I think we're still in alignment on the long-term goal here.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. The next question I've got is, for manufacturers of smart devices, what would be a good way to develop demand response programs with the utilities? So I'm sure you might all have a good answer for this, but Gary, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's a great question. I think, you know, we're device agnostic. So, I mean, from an aggregation point of view, we want to meet the customer where their choice is. So whether it's a Nest thermostat, a Residio Honeywell home thermostat, or an Ecobee, we offer those products to our utility partners, and then we provide the aggregation service. And we see it now with HCA, with the appliance manufacturers. So suddenly the home that has a smart Honeywell home thermostat that brings in a Samsung fridge and a Ford Lightning truck, the future state is an aggregated experience of all those things, all driven by energy science and data that says, look, here's the things the customer is willing to compromise on. Here's the things that they can't compromise on, from comfort or range in that EV, or when the water heater is going to be at a certain temperature. And if we can do all those things and can do that at community level, so that Wayne and our other utility partners can use that fleet of devices at moments in time, that's really, really exciting. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, Elizabeth, but we see it as a big community play. And the reason we're working with Chris's team on CSA and also with the HCA group is that we see standards and others helping us raise the tide. This is not about one brand that's going to win everything. It's going to be a combination of things.
Any other comments on that question of how manufacturers can be, you know, launching a demand response program with utilities? I would say to go to DISTRIBUTECH, come to Smart Energy Summit, get in front of the utilities, right? If you don't know what the utilities are doing or what they're about, it's going to be hard to partner with them. So paying attention to things they pay attention to. And I think that's one reason we're bringing the smart home conversation to DISTRIBUTECH. You know, that's a very focused show on transmission and things that are going on the grid, on the equipment outside of the home. And really the organizers want to draw some spotlight on what's going on in the home and the power that's going to happen with connected devices and what this means for the future, really for the utility play. So anybody else want to comment on the manufacturer, what they can do? Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, in California, we're actually trying to move beyond demand response programs because, as they noted, they tend to be limited in the number of devices and the number of hours per year and such. And they really then can't provide a lot of value to the grid, or they do provide value, but it's quite constrained. So we're trying to move to highly dynamic pricing where the prices are different every day because grid conditions are different every day. And the great thing about tariffs is tariffs are not optional in the way that programs are optional. So you can really bring in all customers and all devices in a way that preserves customer autonomy and privacy, so that customers always have the choice to do whatever they want, as long as they're willing to pay for it, and they have the most opportunity to save money.
Okay, great. Great answer about really being beyond just demand response. That demand flexibility is an interesting concept to push, you know, beyond just DR. So any other comments on that question? Okay, the next question is whether there's a reality that we can have demand response programs in place and that the customer doesn't really notice. This idea of it being invisible, which is something, you know, Dave Puckett from Comcast, he's Comcast Global Head of Product and Services, has talked about this idea of technology becoming invisible, and that would exactly be it. You wouldn't even know what's going on in the background, so it doesn't bother me that anybody's got control. Is that something we're going to end up seeing in the future?
I mean, I think I can jump in first. You know, we're trying to create the standards that will get all the devices to be connected, so that you'd if you allowed, you'd see aggregated usage of things. Price would flow through, like Bruce is saying, and other signals might be flowing through as well. But then also your preferences would be something that would be flowed through, like when you're in this room or when you're in that room, or how many people are in this room, and how you're adjusting your thermostat and your lighting. And eventually, I don't know if AI is there just yet, but you should be able to get both of those signals into some system that can be smart enough to just set things for you. And so that it really can be simple. And I think in the meantime, you could probably have a simple panel of like, okay, in a demand response event, or if the price goes here, how many degrees are you willing to sacrifice of your air conditioning or of your heating? Or, and I think a lot of it comes down to occupancy, right? Like if you've got only 2 people in the house, you don't have to heat tons and tons of hot water. There's not going to be 7 showers that day, right? So there are obvious ways that don't even require AI that we can start to raise the bar with just a little bit of intelligence, not a lot of intelligence. So I think, yes, we're definitely going to be there. And the vision as described might be a little bit far off, but I think we're going to start to see incremental steps towards that really, really soon here.
Elizabeth, I was going to say, I would argue we are there today. I'm sure Gary and I can pick many examples. I'll pick EV charging just as one, but smart breaker panels as an example. The incoming service may need to be upgraded if you're adding an EV charger. But now we see smart breaker panels actually regulating that EV charging speed based on the amount of available current. And so is that noticeable to a customer, whether they're using 30 amps or 50 amps? No, right? They just know they plugged it in and it's charging, and then that in the background, those kind of things are occurring. So that just is one example of how things are already working today.
Yeah, and I'd sort of just reinforce what Wayne's spoken about there, is that most of our time within our team is spent on the intelligence layer of demand response. So as Bruce was indicating, price is a great metric, not just about resilience on the grid. So we're spending a lot of time thinking about those combinations. And I think going back to the Ford relationship, we could all here sort of try and note or predict the impact of a normal customer driving their Lightning truck home onto their home environment, and the anxiety that brings. So by working with that industry and understanding the behavioral needs will enable us, as Wayne was indicating there, is do a number of things behind the scenes where the customer's not impacted, so their Lightning truck can get them to their office or their workplace the next day, but not at the compromise of the comfort and the environment of the home. So, energy science, intelligence, smart products, understanding, time of use rates and grid resilience, all those things are going to be factored in so that the customer has a really elegant experience both today and moving forward. So we're really excited, Elizabeth, with this panel to continue to feed in some of the findings and of the journey we're on, because we're all very invested in finding the right outcome for our customers here.
Well, and it's going to be about the customer buying these connected devices, somehow getting these connected devices in their home. And with thermostat adoption, it's at 17.5%. And that is a nice jump. We were sitting at the 10 to 12% adoption rate for like at least 5 years from our data. So finally, in the last 2 years, we've seen this push past 16 and now 17%. That's still a lot of households who do not have this. My question, out of curiosity, is do you think that there's going to be a discontinuation of the dumb thermostats in the future, right? If like Samsung and LG have gone out and said, everything we build is going to be connected. Every single product we have is connected. I believe it's already happened at this point for both those companies. Will we see the thermostat companies put a stake in the ground at some point and say, we're going to make everything connected because we, effectively we're going to have to at some point, anyhow? Or will we continue to see I don't know if we call them dumb thermostats, because in some ways the unconnected thermostats can still seem smart with their capabilities.
You want to jump, Gary? Or you want me to jump?
You jump first, Chris. No, jump.
So I think someday maybe, and I think I'm a little more conservative than what Wayne was saying before about some of the things, but I think, in a lot of appliances, what we've seen is that, yes, it has connectivity in it, And then, because the consumer has to create an app or download an app and then create an account and jump through all these hoops to even get it on their Wi-Fi, we've seen that consumers don't make those jumps. And so we're trying to stay focused on that piece, make it really, really simple so that they do, easily get things on and they have assurances to their privacy that they want. And also security as well of that device that's connected. And then if we can get past those hurdles, and then, I think if we see higher uptake of connectivity, then I think we will start to see more companies start to push at least connectivity. Again, I don't know if we can call them smart if consumers are going to, if I have to buy a thermostat that has a switch in it and I just don't connect it, what does that do for the world except, put a radio chip in there that no one's using? So I think we need to make sure we get our ducks in a row before companies cross that. And I think with LG and Samsung, they're talking about like TVs and other things that, today are all connected, right? I'm buying a connected TV and I'm connecting it because I need that for my Netflix and stuff. But for refrigerators, I don't know if we're there yet, or thermostats.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Bruce, carry on.
I was gonna say, a lot of devices are getting connectivity for purposes other than energy. And once you do that, then adding the energy features is free. And so you might as well do it. And so that's going to be a big driver towards all this as well.
Yeah, we love that concept that the product can grow over time with the consumer, and with the connected solution, that's wonderful. But we still do have a very loyal base of consumers, and also our big pro network that really love certain thermostats that aren't connected. So we try and support our needs of both our pro network as our consumers, and sort of have that unique foot in both camps, that as the connected environment continues to grow, we've got presence there, but also we're not alienating a base of pros and consumers that really just want that sort of a mono thermostat.
Well, and it's the power of choice, right? So that you're able to appeal to the people who can connect the value with the connected thermostat, with a smart thermostat, and then the people who are like, I'm not interested, I don't want that. I want to keep doing what I've always done. There is going to be the issue, though, of the utilities having to move customers into these programs, right? And we've shown very low adoption across many, many years. And Wayne and Bruce, I'm sure you all, and Gary, all know this as well, that is a problem, right? Explaining to consumers and getting them to opt in. We've even seen people who've opted in and then they opt out, and then what do? How do you re-engage them? So Wayne, I don't know if you have any ideas here on the marketing, on the utility being able to connect more directly to the customer in a way that the customer can appreciate and would result in entering into one of these various programs that a lot of utilities are offering.
Yeah, I think it all starts with market research, right? I had a boss once, you may have said this before too, Elizabeth. He would ask me a question, and the answer was, you're a data point of one. So it's one of the, right, what are customers looking for? What's the value, right? Just because customers are asking for it, if there's not value in the market, then it's a lower priority. And so I think we start with that market research. For me, I think about energy efficiency. Customers can easily think about how would I save energy at my home? And so whether it's appliances, whether it's moving from gasoline or an ICE vehicle to EV, right, they all are making decisions along the way. So how we're kind of seen as one of those trusted advisors. And so how do we leverage that to help them understand how to save energy, which translates to saving money?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, so when I was a child, I remember our family used to collect bottles and cans and newspapers and periodically drive to a recycling center to recycle it. And most people didn't recycle it with that. But once people decided we really need to be serious about this, we just started providing the service to everybody, whether they wanted to or not. People realized it wasn't that big of a deal. It was easy to do, and it helped reduce pollution. And as I mentioned, the great thing about pricing is prices are not optional. If you just start charging good prices to people, you could have devices that would automatically discover a device in their house or building that has the local price, and then which has been configured with the right retailer and tariff, and just automatically start doing the right thing even without the customer doing anything, because that's the default behavior. That's the way devices should just work.
Great. Well, certainly a lot of progress, and work to getting to that point. But we are strong believers that, familiarity, value, and affordability, those are the three metrics that Parks Associates tracks across services and products being adopted. And that familiarity piece and the value, of course, along with affordability, become, really critical to that tipping point of getting into mass market. So we're still got a long ways to go with the energy device, product category in its entirety, but certainly a lot's coming, and we continue to see that. Consumers do tell us that there's a willingness to pay for real-time energy consumption and then the data analytics that come with that. And so I think that's where a lot of companies are working of how can I show the consumer and get them engaged in a non-annoying way, that educates them to really want to be a participant, be an active participant without having to do much. And that's the trick, right? And that's where the utilities are really going to start seeing some momentum when those things come together. But maybe we can talk about how much progress have utilities made up to this point with showing what consumers want, which is the real-time data and the analytics that go along with that. So Gary, maybe I'm not sure if this is something you might be able to speak to, and potentially Wayne following you.
Yeah, we're seeing, we feel very grateful for the trust that our utility partners sort of place in us. And we're seeing a lot more sort of activity in programs and a lot more support for reaching out to those fleet of sort of smart thermostats to make an effective change. So we are definitely seeing momentum. I think things like, a big part, at the PLMA event, a lot of utilities talk about education. And I think, as sort of Bruce was saying there, if we can educate, inform, and then guide people about what we're actually trying to do here, I think we've got a tremendous sort of runway of success. And I think that will help drive adoption of connected smart thermostats as a start point. That coincidental load is really valuable, and being able to, as a tech platform, being able to reach out to that fleet of thermostats, make a change that doesn't affect someone's comfort, and then deliver the results back to the utility will drive more adoption, and then layering in additional loads will continue to drive new programs and new initiatives. And it's a very exciting sort of space to sort of be in at the moment. And it's a lot more complicated than actually just doing the logic that just changes the behavior of a set point of a thermostat. There's a tremendous amount of reporting that goes on behind the scenes for those utilities to provide endorsement of programs to get funding and things. So it's a complicated puzzle, but one we're really excited to partner up with those 300 utilities to conquer, because we really do believe the end result is the grid and consumers' homes and the environment around us working together for a greater good. So we're excited.
Great. Any other comments on utilities? Wayne, did you want to make any comments on where utilities are at with real-time data and that monitoring piece as well?
Yeah, for the real-time piece, I think it all comes down to how much time do consumers want to spend on it, right? With baseball, football, soccer, whatever's going on in life, how much time do they really want to spend looking at this data? There are devices, right? We can start with smart meters. The smart meters in the ERCOT market, competitive ERCOT market, provide 15-minute data, which allows us to provide customers a weekly email. We receive lots of positive comments from customers saying we like that kind of a once a week quick check. Here's what I did last week. Here's what I did this week. Yeah, is that the way I think I used power? They can do those kind of things, see how they compare to neighbors and an energy tip. So with that information, for most consumers, I think that's a good start. And then what we've seen in the past is when you provide them, the smart meters have in the ERCOT market had a Zigbee radio in them. And so we could pair devices like a home energy monitor that would give you updates every 10 seconds in a home. Again, how much information before you get overwhelmed? And once you have the data, with any of this data, once you have it, what are you going to do with it? So as we provide more and more data, if customers do not perceive a value in it, then it's just more data overwhelms them and may turn them off.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the idea of big data. I mean, we've been talking about big data since I think about 2010, right? And now we have lots of big data, and then it really is, what are we doing with it? And then how can we make money and reach other goals that we have set? So really interesting dynamics at play. I want to end our conversation because we are at time, but I have time for each of you just to tell us in 30 seconds what you expect in 2024 for the energy market. So you can speak to really whatever area you'd like. And Christopher, we'll start with you and then go to Gary, Wayne, and Bruce. We will end with you.
I just want to chime in on, what kind of data can be provided here. There's a number of disaggregation pieces that the companies are looking into. And one of the coolest things, it's not sort of like the big data side of things, but like if you're looking at the electric signals, you can tell if a garage door is being opened or closed. And so now, like with just a smart meter, I can be told if I left my garage door open. No other information is needed, no other hardware is needed. And so now, I just get a notice from the electric company, you left your garage door open, it's 10 o'clock at night. And that's the kind of information that I think we could be going towards and that these things can actually provide. That's really neat. That's not really part of what I was going to say. But anyway, on the standard side of things, I think we're trying to get devices, to use these standards that can reduce the costs for all of this and then really provide the value to consumers and give them the control. And that's what I'll leave it on.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Christopher. We appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Gary, go ahead.
Well, we're sort of unapologetically excited about seeing the first takeaways from the vehicle to home energy exploration we're doing with Ford. Understanding that relationship and how electric vehicle batteries can inject power to the home to help reduce energy costs, and will be, I think, a huge learning for ourselves as well as the industry. So we're very excited about that, Elizabeth. We really are, and obviously sharing the takeaways with yourself over time.
Yeah, and that's a huge announcement you all made. So congratulations on getting that going. And again, we'll look forward to watching that unfold. Wayne, you want to comment here?
Yeah, I would echo Gary. Christopher said that I was very optimistic on technology. Yes, I am. Loved it. That's what got best job right here, looking at all this. And Gary, I'm driving a Ford Lightning with extended range battery, so very familiar with that. But I think with all the vehicle to home, vehicle to grid technology, that excites me more, right? Because like that Lightning, the extended range battery in that truck is equal to 10 Tesla Powerwalls hanging on the wall. So just lots of power that's there. And so as we learn to work together on all that, some great opportunities.
Absolutely. Bruce?
Yeah, so I think there's a very bright future for highly dynamic pricing. In California, we're planning to start offering that in 2 years and roll it out to most of the state in 3 years. I already own 2 devices that can take in a time interval signal and optimize to it. The heat pump controller in my house, which provides space and water heat, so it's by far the biggest load, already can take in such prices. I only can pay time of use, so it optimizes to that. But once the better prices arrive, my hardware is already set up to do it. Secondly, a few months ago, Apple rolled out a routine software update and added the feature, which I think is on by default, where it takes into account a marginal GHG signal, which is really algorithmically the same as a price signal. So we could through software upgrades, get a lot of existing products that are out in the field to be price responsive just with a routine software update. So.
Yeah, it's really amazing what's going to come. I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around all the different areas that technology is advancing and really transforming things. You know, we had a poll question on our swap card interface that people really do think that the rising energy costs are what's going to drive the adoption of these products, followed by the growth of the smart home industry, and then by EVs. And interestingly, not one person said that an interest in climate change prevention, you know, that's a 0%. So that's kind of interesting, because we do think that conscious consumers will help, right? People understand, just like recycling, you know, if I can help save the world and make 5 cents doing it, I'm going to do that. Even if I can help save the world and not make 5 cents, people might be willing to do that as well. So this has been an amazing discussion. I've learned so much, and I really want to thank you all so much for your time and joining us today and for the prep calls. I hope to see you all in person, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Great. And for our audience here, we're very excited to highlight the discussions that will take place next month at DISTRIBUTECH on Tuesday, February 27th and Wednesday, February 28th. We also have a networking reception that we'll be hosting on Tuesday evening. If you're going to DISTRIBUTECH, we would absolutely love to see you. Please reach out to us if you're not sure how to register, or visit any of our websites for more information. We also are just coming out of the field with some new research that we'll be sharing. We've got our Q4 consumer survey work back, and so studies on their way out about energy management and the services in the home. If you need research about the connected home, small to medium business, multifamily, certainly hope you will think of Parks Associates. We have an extraordinarily robust amount of data in these areas and would love to help your team better understand how to navigate the disruption. Also, we love to amplify company messages. We love to share with the industry what we think is happening now, what's to come, and how the past will help be a predictor of the future. And so if you're interested in any of our marketing services, please feel free to reach out to Ashton Gambrell. Also, all of our events really are meant to bring the wisdom of the crowds together. That means all the geniuses in the room create more genius all around us. And so we invite you to join us at any one of our executive conferences throughout the year. Again, our team is here for you. If you have questions, reach out to them directly. And next up, we'll see you in person at the end of next month. So thank you again for joining us today.